Hello everyone, and welcome back to Sun Moon Audiobook, the channel where we share wisdom and inspiring book journeys to help you grow and develop your best self, inside and out. A man once stood at the edge of a marketplace, watching the river that cut through his city. Coins clinked in the pockets of the merchants. The smell of bread and spices filled the air, and yet his heart ached with emptiness. He had labored for years, and still he had nothing to show for it. The river seemed to whisper a question. How could it be that wealth flows so freely for some, yet dries up so quickly for others? And in that whisper, he longed for an answer. The richest man in Babylon is born of that same longing. George S. Clason, the man behind these timeless parables, was not merely a writer of words but a messenger of ancient truths. He reached back into the wisdom of Babylon, one of the cradles of civilization, and brought forward stories that speak to the human soul as much as to the human pocket. His voice is practical, but it is also compassionate, for he knew that money is not just about arithmetic. It is about dignity, choices, freedom, and the quiet hope that tomorrow can be brighter than today. These stories, cloaked in the dust of an ancient city, are really about you and me and every person who has ever struggled to grasp the invisible threads that bind labor to reward, desire to fulfillment. The heart of Clason's message begins with a simple yet profound truth. A part of all you earn is yours to keep. It sounds so obvious, almost trivial, but pause for a moment and let those words sink in. How many of us earn and immediately scatter our earnings to the winds of obligations, temptations, and fleeting pleasures? The man in Babylon who first heard this advice realized that keeping even a small portion of his income was like planting seeds in a field. 1/10 perhaps set aside, untouched. In the beginning, it feels impossible, like asking a thirsty traveler to leave water in the jar. But over time, the seeds begin to sprout. And as those savings grow, so too does a sense of inner security, like a quiet strength in the chest. Money kept is not money wasted. It is money prepared for your freedom. This lesson has echoed across generations. Think of Warren Buffett, who began not with billions, but with a boy's small ventures collecting bottles, selling newspapers. He kept what he earned, reinvested it, and allowed it to grow. The principle was not different in Babylon, nor is it different today. A part of all you earn is yours to keep. Let that phrase anchor itself in your mind, for it is not just advice, it is a mantra, a compass pointing you towards stability and abundance. As the parables unfold, another truth emerges. Gold works for the wise as diligently as a servant, but flees from the careless as swiftly as a thief. Money is not merely stored, it must be put to work. The Babylonians spoke of this as making your money breed more money, like sheep that birth more sheep. To let your savings sit idle is to deny them the chance to grow. Imagine a coin sitting alone in the dark. Left untouched, it remains just a coin. But when invested wisely, it multiplies. It creates offspring. It gathers companions. This is why the rich in Babylon became richer. They did not merely hoard their wealth. They allowed it to flow into ventures that brought steady returns. But the warning is clear. Money placed in the wrong hands, or trusted to unwise schemes, vanishes like mist in the morning sun. And how many of us have felt that sting, placing hope in an easy promise, only to see our effort dissolve? The lesson here is not to retreat from risk, but to choose with care, to seek counsel, to let wisdom, not impulse, guide your hand. If you are listening to this now, perhaps you have made such mistakes. Perhaps you carry the weight of regret. Let me tell you, those mistakes are not final. They are tuition paid to the school of experience. What matters is not the loss itself, but what you learn from it. The wise learn, and then they move forward. The careless repeat. In Babylon, the richest man, Arcad, reminded his students that wealth is not reserved for the fortunate few, but is built through discipline. Discipline to save, discipline to invest, discipline to restrain desires. And this discipline births freedom. You, who are listening right now, you may feel the pull of wants that drain your purse. A new device, a fleeting luxury, a night out that dissolves into memory by morning. Babylon's wisdom whispers, control thy expenditures. Live not by the swollen measure of your cravings, but by the measured step of your means. This does not mean denying joy, it means choosing joy that lasts over pleasure that fades. There is a difference between a meal that nourishes and one that leaves you hungry again an hour later. Choose nourishment. Choose permanence. I remember once walking past a small shop where an old craftsman carved wooden figurines. His hands were rough, his tools simple, but his work carried a beauty that outlasted the day. I bought one, though it was modest, and over the years, that figurine remained when countless other purchases had disappeared into dust. That quiet moment taught me, spend where it endures, not where it evaporates. Wealth, then, is not merely what you earn, but what you keep. And not merely what you keep, but how you let it grow. Yet even with discipline, even with wise investment, there comes the shadow of fear. Fear of loss, fear of failure. This is where Clason's words bring us back to courage. The man who hides his gold in fear of losing it gains nothing. The one who lends it unwisely loses all. But the man who seeks counsel, who takes steady, measured steps, finds his wealth multiplying. And in that multiplication lies confidence. Wealth is a friend to the bold, but only when boldness is yoked to wisdom. And so, we return to the streets of Babylon, where wisdom was traded more dearly than silver. Arkad, the richest man, did not grow his wealth by accident. He learned that opportunity is a timid visitor, it comes softly, knocking only once before passing on to another door. The lesson is clear. When a wise opportunity presents itself, it must be embraced with readiness. Too often we wait for the perfect moment, for certainty, for guarantees that never come. And in that waiting, the door closes. But to prepare oneself with savings, with knowledge, with discipline, is to be ready when that quiet knock arrives. It is not rashness that builds wealth, but readiness joined with action. Think of the countless innovators and entrepreneurs who listened when opportunity whispered, people like Oprah Winfrey, who took small beginnings and through discipline and readiness, seized moments others let slip by. Her wealth was not born of luck, but of steady preparation meeting decisive action. The Babylonians would have called this the work of the gods, but really it is the work of human diligence. There is another teaching nestled in these parables. Guard thy treasures against loss. The people of Babylon knew the pain of trusting in ventures they did not understand, of placing gold in the hands of the unwise. Arkad reminded his students that one must seek the advice of those skilled in the trade before risking their wealth. It is easy to be seduced by promises of quick gain, but easy gold is the most fleeting of all. Gold that multiplies steadily, safely, under the guidance of knowledge, that is the gold that endures. Even today, the lesson holds. Do not invest in what you do not understand. Do not entrust your savings to the whispers of strangers. Instead, learn, seek wisdom, and allow your choices to be slow and deliberate. Each coin you earn is the fruit of your labor. Do not cast it lightly into the wind. As the parables unfold, they touch on the most human of longings, to provide for the future. Babylon's wisdom insists that a man must not only care for his present needs, but must prepare for his family and for the years when his strength will fade. This is not only about money, it is about love, responsibility, and dignity. To provide for those you cherish, to ensure that even when your hands can no longer labor, they are sheltered and secure. That is a form of wealth far greater than gold, and it begins with small, steady steps. Saving a portion, investing wisely, building a wall of protection around your household. It is the quiet work of foresight, a love letter written not with ink, but with discipline. Yet discipline is not enough without the fuel of desire. Arkad told his students that wealth is born first in the heart. A man who does not desire riches with clarity and strength will not grasp them even if they fall into his hands. Desire is the spark that ignites action, but it must be more than idle wishing. It must be specific, strong, and steady. To long vaguely for wealth is like grasping smoke. To long with purpose, to say, I will save this much, I will invest in this, I will build this future that is to take hold of the wheel and steer the ship of your life. Desire gives direction, and direction shapes destiny. At this point, let me share something personal. I remember standing once in a quiet room late at night, the world outside silent, the lamp casting a soft glow on my desk. In front of me lay a notebook where I had written my dreams, not in the language of fantasy, but in the language of goals. Numbers, dates, steps. And as I read them, I felt a shift inside me. It was as though the vague fog of wanting more cleared, and in its place stood a map. That night, for the first time, I believed that wealth was not some distant gift for others. It was a path I could walk if I stayed true to those steps. That belief, tender as a new flame, changed everything. This is what Clason means when he says that desire must be strong and definite. Wealth is not a wish. It is a plan carried by discipline. But even as we plan, we must remember this. Wealth alone does not bring happiness. The Babylonians, wise as they were, taught that a man's true reward is not in gold itself, but in the freedom it brings. Freedom to pursue what matters, to live without the gnawing chain of debt, to choose with dignity instead of desperation. Debt, they warned, is a cruel master. To borrow is to enslave the future to the present. To live beyond one's means is to trade tomorrow's freedom for today's fleeting pleasure. And yet, many find themselves shackled, working endlessly to feed the appetite of debt. Babylon's wisdom is gentle but firm. Escape the chains. Repay faithfully. Live within your means. Let debt be a burden you shed rather than a cloak you wear. For freedom is worth more than the finest jewels. You, listening now, may feel those chains around you. Perhaps you lie awake at night, your heart heavy with the weight of what you owe. Hear me. You are not alone, and you are not powerless. Begin where you are. Even the smallest repayment, repeated faithfully, chips away at the wall. The Babylonians did not scorn those in debt. They offered them a path of honesty, persistence, and discipline. And on that path lies freedom. And so, as the wisdom of Babylon continues to unfold, another truth comes into view, a truth so simple yet so often forgotten, the value of learning from the wise. Arkad told his students that those who seek counsel from men skilled in the handling of gold will seldom fail, while those who follow the whispers of fools will always stumble. It is a lesson both ancient and modern. In Babylon, a young man might be tempted to give his gold to a friend who promises riches in foreign lands, but only those who placed their trust in merchants, lenders, and craftsmen experienced true gain. Today, it is the same. The counsel of those who have walked the path matters far more than the promises of those who have not. Wisdom is not in flashy words, but in steady experience. Every great investor, every steady builder of wealth, has learned this. Surround yourself with those who understand, and their knowledge becomes a shield. The richest man in Babylon never claimed his wisdom as his own. He gathered it, listened, and then acted. There is humility in that. Wealth is not grown in isolation. It is grown in community, in shared knowledge, in trusted counsel. This humility is its own kind of richness, for it reminds us that none of us must walk the path alone. But wealth, in the Babylonian sense, was not only about money, it was about character. Arkad taught that a man's worth is measured not only by the weight of his gold, but by the weight of his word. To keep one's promises, to repay one's debts, to treat others with fairness, these were the marks of true wealth. Gold without honor was like a clay vessel without water, appearing useful, but failing to quench. And so, in every parable, we are reminded that money is but a tool. Character is the foundation. Without it, wealth collapses. With it, wealth becomes a blessing, not a curse. There is a point in these stories where the Babylonians speak of luck, and they strip it of its illusions. Luck, they say, comes to the man who acts, not to the one who waits. The man who idly hopes for fortune to fall into his lap will grow old waiting. The man who prepares, saves, invests, learns, and seizes opportunities when they come, he is the one others call lucky. But luck, in truth, is not chance. It is readiness meeting opportunity. It is the reward of discipline disguised as fortune. If you have ever looked at someone successful and thought, they are lucky, remember this: what you are seeing is often the harvest of seeds planted long before. Babylon's wisdom unmasks luck as nothing more than diligence bearing fruit. There comes, too, a deeper call woven through the tales, to see wealth not as the end, but as a means. Arkad, though the richest man, did not clutch his gold in fear. He shared his wisdom, he used his wealth to create more opportunities, he lived with purpose. The accumulation of gold was not the treasure was the life it allowed him to live. Wealth for wealth's sake becomes a prison, but wealth used with intention becomes a key to freedom, to generosity, to dignity. And so the stories of Babylon become not just lessons on finance, but lessons on the soul. They remind us that money reveals, it magnifies, it reflects who we are. The greedy become more greedy with gold. The wise become more generous. The fearful more afraid. The courageous more bold. Wealth does not change us, it exposes us. This is why the Babylonians urged wisdom, humility, discipline, and integrity as the foundations before riches. For only then can riches be a blessing. If you feel weary listening to these lessons, if a part of you resists, thinking the path is too slow, too demanding, let me pause here with you. It is true, wealth in the Babylonian way is not built overnight. It is not born of sudden fortune, but of steady habits, like water carving stone. And perhaps you feel you have already lost too much time, made too many mistakes, or started too late. But hear this, it is never too late to begin. The same rules that built wealth in Babylon 5,000 years ago can build it for you now. The past cannot be reclaimed, but the future can be shaped. Each coin saved, each wise choice made, each desire restrained that is a step forward. And steps, no matter how small, carry you toward freedom. Imagine yourself as a gardener. Perhaps your garden has been neglected, the soil dry, the weeds tall. It feels overwhelming. But the gardener does not despair. He clears one patch, waters one plant, pulls one weed. Slowly, the garden changes. Slowly, life returns. So, it is with your finances, your future, your wealth. Begin with one act. Save a portion, repay a debt, seek counsel, invest wisely. These acts are seeds, and though they may seem small, in time they grow into shade and fruit. The parables whisper on, weaving their way into the heart like the rhythm of footsteps on a long path, steady and enduring. The Babylonians spoke of the 5 laws of gold, and these laws ring with the clarity of bells across the centuries. They are not mere rules of finance, they are truths about life itself. The first law reminds us that gold comes gladly and in increasing quantity to any man who sets aside not less than 1/10 of his earnings. This is the law of beginnings, the law of planting. Every act of saving is a declaration that you believe in tomorrow. To save is to honor your future self, to show faith that your life is worthy of security and abundance. The second law teaches that gold labors diligently and multiplies when it is wisely invested. Money, like a worker, desires to be employed. It longs to create more of itself, to bring forth increase. To leave it idle is to deny its nature. The third law warns us that gold clings to the protection of the cautious owner, who invests it with the wisdom of men skilled in its keeping. This is the law of counsel, the law of humility. It reminds us that wealth is safest in the company of knowledge, and that arrogance is the swiftest thief of fortune. The fourth law cautions that gold slips away from the man who invests it in ventures he does not understand, or in schemes that promise impossible riches. This is the law of prudence. It whispers to us, if it seems too good to be true, it almost always is. And the fifth law, speaks with a stern voice. Gold flees from the man who compels it into impossible earnings, who follows the allure of tricksters, who trusts in his own ignorance. This is the law of patience, the law of honesty. For gold does not stay with the reckless. It leaves them as quickly as it came. These laws are not only about coins and silver, they are about trust, discipline, and wisdom. To follow them is to walk in harmony with life's design. To break them is to invite struggle and loss. And yet, within these laws is mercy. For no matter how many times we have broken them, no matter how far we have wandered, we can always begin again. Wealth is forgiving to the one who learns. The Babylonians also spoke of work with reverence. To labor was not a curse but a blessing, the foundation upon which riches are built. Arkad reminded his students that wealth does not spring from dreams or wishes, but from effort. To despise work is to despise the very soil from which gold grows. Work is the training ground of discipline, the forge of skill, the path to dignity. Even the richest man once began as a laborer. In this there is comfort, for it means that no one is excluded. Wealth is not a gift handed to a chosen few, it is the harvest of effort planted by anyone who is willing to till the ground. And when effort meets discipline, when saving meets investing, when counsel meets action, then wealth blooms like a tree heavy with fruit. There is a softness in these parables too, a reminder that wealth is not only for the self. Generosity flows through the wisdom of Babylon. To share one's fortune, to uplift others, to use gold as a tool for kindness, this was seen as the highest use of riches. What use is abundance if it does not bring light to others? True wealth multiplies not only in coins, but in the joy and relief it brings to those around us. The richest man was rich not because of what he kept, but because of what he created, what he enabled, what he gave. And so the story comes to a quiet crescendo. Wealth is not a destination, but a journey of choices. Each choice either builds or diminishes. Each day is an opportunity to align your life with these ancient laws. To save, to invest, to seek wisdom, to guard against folly, to repay faithfully, to work diligently, to share generously. These are not burdens, they are freedoms disguised as discipline. You, listening now, may feel a stirring in your chest, a sense that these words are not foreign, but familiar. Perhaps they awaken something already inside you, a seed of longing that has waited for this moment. Perhaps you realize that wealth is not as distant as you once thought. It begins with one step, one decision, one coin set aside, one wise choice. And though the road may be long, every step carries you closer. Picture yourself standing at the gates of ancient Babylon, the marketplace alive with sound and color. Imagine Arkad himself looking at you, not with judgment, but with quiet belief. His voice would be gentle yet firm. A part of all you earn is yours to keep. Let it work for you. Guard it with wisdom. Repay your debts. Live within your means. Desire riches with purpose. Do this faithfully, and your purse will grow, your heart will lighten, and your future will shine. This is not just the wisdom of Babylon, it is the wisdom of life. And now, as we near the closing stretch of Babylon's wisdom, let us pause in the silence between words, because here lies the heart of what George S. Clason wanted us to feel. That wealth is not simply about gold in a purse, but about a life lived in balance, in dignity, in quiet strength. Babylon's streets, though ancient, mirror our own. The noise of trade, the urgency of debt collectors, the longing in the eyes of men and women who worked tirelessly, yet dreamed of freedom, all feels so familiar. Clason's gift was to wrap eternal truths in these parables, so that when we hear them, we don't just nod with understanding, we feel them stir our bones. One of the most tender lessons of Babylon is the call to resilience. No man, however rich, was spared failure. Mistakes were made, fortunes were lost, trust was broken. And yet those who became truly rich were not the ones who never stumbled, but the ones who stood up again, who learned, who adjusted, who refused to surrender to despair. This is a message you might need most right now. Perhaps your purse feels empty. Perhaps your past choices weigh heavy. Perhaps you feel you've wasted years. But Babylon whispers, it is not the end. Begin again. Plant new seeds. Water them with discipline. Shield them with wisdom. In time, your garden will grow. There is a moment in the stories when debtors come to face their obligations, ashamed and weary, expecting scorn. But instead, they are offered a path of repayment in steady portions, forgiveness through faithfulness. This mercy is more than financial. It is spiritual. It tells us that even in our greatest failings, there is hope. Even when we feel bound by chains too heavy to break, there is a key within reach. It is the daily choice to move, however slowly, toward freedom. This is the heartbeat of Babylon. Progress over perfection, persistence over despair. And there is a rhythm to the progress, almost like breathing. Save, invest, protect, learn, give. Inhale, discipline. Exhale, growth. Inhale, caution. Exhale, courage. When followed, this rhythm builds not only wealth, but peace. For what is wealth if it does not bring peace of mind? And what is peace if it is not anchored in freedom from fear? You, listening now, carry within you that same possibility. Even if today you feel far from riches, even if your circumstances seem immovable, you are still the same kind of human that once walked the streets of Babylon. Their struggles were not so different. Their victories are available to you. The gold that filled their purses is no different from the money that passes through your hands. The rules of its growth are unchanged. All that matters is whether you choose to live by those rules. Let this sink in. The richest man in Babylon was not born rich. He began as you are now, uncertain, striving, learning. His wealth came because he listened, he acted, he persisted. So too can you. And if doubt whispers, if fear says, it is too late, remember this mantra. Repeat it until it lives in you. A part of all you earn is yours to keep. Let your gold work for you. Guard it with wisdom, desire with purpose, and know that luck is not chance, but preparation, meeting opportunity. These words are not distant teachings, they are lifelines. Imagine what might shift if, beginning today, you chose just one act. Saving a tenth, learning a trade, repaying a debt, seeking wise counsel. Just one. Over time, that one act multiplies. Like drops filling a jar, like seeds filling a field, like stars filling the night sky. This is how transformation begins. And so we close with a vision. Picture a sunrise over Babylon, the golden light spilling over walls and towers, merchants setting out their goods, craftsmen sharpening their tools, children running through the streets. Among them walks a man, once poor, now rich, not only in gold, but in wisdom. He is steady, he is free, he is generous. His purse is heavy, but his heart is light. That man is not only Archidite is you, if you choose. You are the steward of your future, the architect of your freedom, the gardener of your wealth. The sunrise over Babylon is the same sunrise over your life, a reminder that every day is a new chance to begin again. So let these words be more than a story. Let them be a call to save, to grow, to live with purpose, a call to believe that your future is worthy of abundance, a call to trust that small steps create great journeys. And as you take those steps, remember, wealth is not just in what you hold, but in who you become. If these words stirred something in you, if you felt a light turning on inside, I invite you to hold on to it. Share this message with someone who needs hope. Leave your thoughts, your reflections, your stories in the space below, because your voice too matters. And if this conversation spoke to you, let us continue walking together. Like, share, comment, and subscribe, so that more seeds of wisdom can be planted in more lives. Together, we can keep the fire of Babylon burning bright, guiding each of us toward freedom, dignity, and abundance.